How's it going? My name is Nick, and I just want to say first, I appreciate you. Thank you for subscribing to Roll Coverage. It really helps us out a lot. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. Otherwise, just sit back and get ready. It's time to Roll Coverage.
This one, I'm going to make some friends, but I'm definitely going to make a lot more enemies. This is my true Panthers thoughts, my true thoughts on Dave Canales, Bryce Young, and what to expect moving forwards. Let's go.
Hey, I thought it was all over.
Nope. They Roll Coverage.
Okay, this one's going to be a little interesting. I'm going to kind of go in a few different places. First, I'm going to start with some YouTube comments, really give my thoughts. That'll, of course, go into the Dave Canales part. And for the final wrap-up, we're going to pick the games for the Carolina Panthers and my thoughts where I feel the team is right now. Okay, so we're jumping into the first of my YouTube comments on one of my recent videos. This one from @JoeFowler1011. Y'all all just Bryce Young haters. Keep the same energy when bro cooks up this season. Hey, man, I'm super excited, and I appreciate you watching Roll Coverage. I don't think you're really understanding where my thoughts are really with Bryce Young, so I'm going to kind of flesh them out nice and easy. Do I think Bryce Young can improve? Oh, absolutely. He can absolutely become a more potent passer, do more with the total offense. He could be a 4,000 passing yard a year. He can probably eclipse 30 touchdowns. But is he going to do it in the next 2 to 3 years? Is going to be the real barometer of his growth and potential. Right now, we've given him an offensive head coach. We've given him offensive weapons, both receiver, tight end, running back. We've really gone above and beyond. We've also brought in a former wide receiver coach to be our new OC. Tepper is apparently going to be behind the scenes. We'll actually see if that happens. So there's a lot that's kind of playing into that. I'm not hating on Bryce. I'm just holding him accountable. We need to be critical of where we are as fans. That's where we just get into this thing of like the zealousy, man. The people that are just like, if you don't love Bryce Young, then you hate the Panthers and you're not a Panthers fan. No, I could be critical and I could say, man, maybe he just doesn't have the tools around him, sure. Or you could be like me and say, hey, he played all but one game. I'm not going to ignore last year. He didn't mess up because of the coach. In fact, one of the later comments you're going to hear, hey, man, the Frank Reich offense was too vanilla. Without even getting into that, we're in a new season. We need to focus on Dave Canales and moving forwards. Yes, there's some past stuff with previous coaches, which is, I think, why we're in the situation we're in now. But if you can't be critical of Bryce, I'm sorry, you are not a Panthers fan. You're just a, like, absolutely fan-crazed person for one guy that hasn't really given us the body of work to allow us to just say, hey, man, just take the keys to the franchise and let's just keep going forward. He's going to be an MVP candidate. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it because of what I saw last year. Again, circumstances, but I think we could all be fans and still be critical of our quarterback, our organization, our ownership, and everything like that. But I really appreciate the comment, my guy. Next one. It's going to be an interesting one. Reich did nothing to adapt his scheme to the roster he had. Making excuses for him just seems wrong, to be honest. There, by the way. If he can't adapt his scheme and play calling to what he has, then he didn't deserve to be the head coach of an NFL team. And then that was by @Baker2.019. And then @Jalen6270 said, right, even if we would have drafted Shroud, any injury would have put us in the same spot. I can accept that, sure. Reich didn't adapt the roster. Sure. I want you guys to do a little quick comparison with me, okay? I'm going to put it up on screen right here, real quick. These two gentlemen, Dave Canales and Frank Reich. A lot of people are going to say, man, Dave Canales winning 3 games, it makes him already a better coach than Frank Reich, okay? Fair. If you're just going on a box score and everything like that in the ending of the season, I understand that. But have you not listened to anything that told you anything about last season? Did you not watch any sports shows where they told you about the ownership meddling and everything?
But is there some hope for David Tepper to be like, okay, I'll get my rocks off for the next 5 years trying to make draft decisions and coaching decisions, then I'll realize I should let somebody who knows about football actually handle all these things.
At some point, he's either going to have to sell the team or he's just going to blow up in his face where he has no choice but to hand it over.
Does he realize he's the problem?
No, I don't think so.
I think, as I wrote, I wish he would fire himself. And by that, I don't mean sell the team. I mean, just get out of the way.
What he's doing? He's creating chaos throughout Bank of America Stadium, practice facility, during the game, the whole nine. He's not going to stop. He hasn't stopped. He ain't stopped.
Man,
Y'all
he
think,
ain't gonna
oh,
stop.
Dan Morgan over here. Oh, Dan Morgan get ready to stop there. Oh, Canales coming and get ready to stop. No. The reports say this is what he does. Finds informants, goes in a room called fact-finding missions. Fact-finding missions.
Where week 3, Frank Reich was going up there and saying that he was getting chewed out in press conferences.
Stay away and don't engage a whole lot. Other owners do, and his philosophy is he's going to engage. And listen, it's only been a short experience, but it's been a really good experience. It hasn't been fun. It's not fun. Those meetings aren't. I wouldn't characterize them as fun meetings. But those meetings make me better, and I trust they make us better.
Where we end up coming to find out that the last head coach, the guy that we brought in, he was our first quarterback to throw a touchdown for our franchise. No big deal, just history, legacy, that kind of stuff. And we bring him out of the Indianapolis situation to bring him in there. Hey, man, he's going to be great.
But I just want to recognize a couple things about Frank. He's a man of incredible integrity, an incredible family man, a person that we could tell has great process and a great way of doing things. That basically has, a guy that basically checks all the boxes, and a guy that you really want to basically help build a culture and help lead a team, hopefully for the next few years and beyond. There's really nothing else for me to say. I'm just going to turn it over to you, Frank. We're really excited about having you here and helping us to build something great.
I want him to say something at my funeral, all that other stuff. We're really going to say we put everything behind that guy, yet we understand the Hunger Games article where he told him not to hire internal candidates or guys that he liked. He wanted him to go outside his circle. We know that, as early as week 3, multiple people were going behind Frank Reich's back, and apparently Frank eventually found out about it. The owner vetoed a football decision by a football person. And not only that, but we had brought in Josh McCown to help out Bryce Young, Deuce Staley to assist with that, and of course Frank Reich, who was supposed to be the offensive mind. Now, you can say that, yes, he didn't adapt the scheme, but I think you also have to understand the psyche of what Frank Reich did. Frank Reich came in, was introduced in January. I believe it was January 26th for some reason. Yeah, January 26th. So, January 26th to April 27th, he was under the impression we're going to be making the best decision and everything like that. And yeah, sure, Bryce Young was the suggested number 1. But, when it really came down to it, the people that should have been making that decision, which is the head coach, the GM, all that other stuff, just went with what the owner wanted and went with Bryce Young. Now, again, he was the consensus number 1 and everything like that, but there comes a time where you really just have to evaluate what's in front of you. If Bryce Young had all the size of CJ Stroud, I don't think we have the issues last year, or at least as many of the issues. I think that a lot of it comes into, again, the turmoil that was happening in the preseason, in week 1, and all that other stuff. So, again, put your little Frank Reich hat on. You just got hired into a job. You go through February, March, April. So you're 90 days into your job. Hey, man, we really want you to rebuild our franchise. We really want you to do this. We're going to help you build this franchise up. And you know what? We have the number 1 pick, so we're going to be able to go out and get your quarterback. When you veto that quarterback, now you're going into training camp and all that other stuff with the idea and the scheme of, again, we also heard the audio clip.
Spun it well, bro. That was great.
be there, I think, 17th, 18th. Let's see. Appreciate you. Thank you guys for coming, man. It's a lot. I appreciate you.
See you. We'll find a court. Play some horses.
It's right here. Come on.
Okay. Well,
no,
maybe
I got to do a little meeting.
We'll find a court. All right. See you, buddy.
I'm going to take his money.
I heard what you said.
I mean, the audio clip says quite a bit. You know, you're going to be hooping here in Carolina, basically. So I think everybody was planning on Stroud and then having to adjust it last second to being Bryce. And I understand last second. There's still April until they actually start training camp and everything like that. So there's still a little bit of a gap. But now you're having to retool everything. Then you come into the season, preseason, obviously a lot of strife. Come into the first few games, you're still having a lot of problems. And then Frank Reich is going in there being like, I've been on the job 6 months. You vetoed my decisions. You are meddling in everything. You've authorized basically a hit on my back to everybody around it. And it wasn't that Bryce was a supercomputer and Frank Reich's offense was too vanilla. David Tepper wanted conflicting minds in there to basically fight it out. And that's what he got. He got Thomas Brown trying to take over offensive play calling ability. We got Frank Reich trying to take it back from him. We got defense having issues. We got players holding out. We got all the issues. And it all started with the Bryce Young pick. I'm not saying Bryce is the problem. I'm saying that you guys are not correctly labeling the true villain of this story, which is the owner. If you want to give Frank Reich strife, that's fine. I've defended him in the past because I, again, understand the true timeline of when he was hired to when Bryce was picked to all the stuff that we started hearing in press conferences. Because, again, last year I was doing press conference breakdowns of every Frank Reich press conference. We were seeing it. We were watching him go up there and be like, man, this sucks, basically. And the dude's literally supposed to be one of the nicest people. That's all we've heard from it. He will give you the shirt up his back, all this other stuff. Okay? So that's what we did to the first quarterback that threw our first touchdown. And I'm doing that in quotations because it doesn't seem to matter to David Tepper.
As a family, this place has always been special.
Looks good. I like the color.
Right to Metzelar's the first touchdown in Carolina Panthers franchise history.
So, with that, I'll go to the other side. The beautiful Dave Canales. Again, I did a video on Dave Canales saying he would be a good head coaching candidate in December before the Carolina Panthers ever interviewed him. I said it was a possibility. Again, if you were following me, you would have known that. But Dave gets the opportunity to pick his staff. Gets the opportunity to not have Tepper involved in the draft. Gets the opportunity to install his scheme and all his stuff because everybody are his guys pushing all in the same direction. You, again, don't have the turmoil of having to deal with the owner being involved in stuff. So that's obviously got to take a lot off of his shoulders. So if Dave Canales comes out here and wins 4 games, I don't know, but to me that feels like a loss. Now, obviously, I can already hear the Twitter fingers and keyboards click-clacking away. I want you to understand that we are giving Bryce Young an offensive coach, offensive weapons, both, again, at all 3 levels, wide receiver, tight end, and running back. We retained the defensive coach. We brought in extra defensive pieces, and we're planning, we traded picks around and all that stuff to plan to build to next year to when Bryce Young is truly going to have a make it or break it year. That's not what we gave him the first year because it was a Scott Fitterer and Dan Morgan made roster. And clearly, Frank Reich didn't have a whole lot of say in anything outside of Miles Sanders. So, where are we really going with this? Why are we still going after Frank when Frank had only been on the job 6 months before it all went to shit? David Tepper was there. David Tepper is the person reported as messing so many of these things up. So that's why I really feel like people that comment stuff like this are going after the head coach rather than addressing the real situation, which is ownership. Everything sucked from ownership. We even heard it from Ben Johnson, who didn't even come interview with the Carolina Panthers this time because of the turmoil of last year. So I can't give you this, my guy. I'm sorry. I feel like this comment is an L comment, but hey, now maybe my response is an L response. I'll take it. Moving forward, bro, y'all don't understand how a mind like Bryce Young works. Mind you, this is from @2 cents, with a Z. Didn't matter how the first year went, doesn't matter the stats. Bryce, I promise you, has been doing mental reps daily on every single imaginable scenario. Screenshot this so we all have receipts. You're going to see an entirely different Bryce Young this year, and the bandwagon will fill up fast. 2 people said breach. The other guy said thank you. I'm freaking tired of hearing Panthers fans talking about our quarterback because he had a bad first year. This year will be different. And then, of course, we have one pessimistic person saying don't hold your breath. I understand that. Okay? I fully get you. I'm not really on board with it when it comes to saying that because I was critical of him last year and the situation and what he put on tape, which is what players say matters, what you put on tape matters, that you're saying that, it's going to fill up and now we need receipts to go after other people. So I don't hear the same people that last year when I was saying that Bryce Young was struggling. In fact, in September of last year, I said that the issue was the personnel. And you know what I got blowback from? Most of the Panthers Twitter. I had people come at me telling me I didn't know what was going on, saying, oh man, look at this dude and all this other stuff. And people that have just run their mouths behind my back rather than come on this show and talk face to face. So if you're one of those people, hey, suck it. But I don't see people pulling or accepting my receipts. When I send it to them, they're like, oh man, yeah, man, you're just not a Panthers fan, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so when I'm right, you know what? When Bryce improves, he'll have improved because he got everything he possibly could have wanted. He got offensive weapons, offensive head coach, and everybody doubling down on him because if they don't, they're all going to lose their jobs. Period. It's as simple as that. If you think that Dan Morgan and Dave Canales survived Bryce Young busting, you're crazy. He guts everything. So this is all everybody. Man, Bryce is going to work. I'm going to do everything I can to make Bryce work because David Tepper had to double down and do all the nasty stuff he did to Frank last year in order to get to this point. In order to even give Dave the ability to run this team. So, again, I feel like there's another L comment. Yeah, if he improves, great. But that doesn't mean receipts. 3,400 yards and 17 touchdowns is not a real, oh my God, I'm bringing receipts and he's so much better now. If he does that with all offensive stuff and he's still pretty shit, I'm sorry, that's pretty shit if you're 3,200 yards and 17 touchdowns. Then Bryce is a bust. So improvement would be 30-plus touchdowns and 4,000 yards. But that's not what we're going to see, so guess you better keep those receipts, my guy. Now this one is an interesting one. Anthony Fowler 4957. At the end of the day, Frank Reich's offense was basic. Wilkes won games, and I stand by that. At the end of the day, that showed that a coach needs to understand the pieces that he has and adjust his playbook and calling style accordingly. Not everybody can run Miami's offense. You have to have the personnel. Reich didn't have the personnel for what he was trying to do. And instead of him noticing that last year, the run scheme last year, sorry, there's some off punctuation, I think. The run schemes that Wilkes used worked, and that he should piggyback off of that. Reich continued to call zone runs that were in a strength of the O-line group. Those weak runs didn't open up the play action, and he had 0 receivers to threaten corners and safeties. Okay. I will side with a lot of this. Let me go through this a little quick, and then we'll come back to one specific part I want to touch on. Wilkes won games and everything like that. I would agree. Different team, though. He needs to understand his pieces, playbook, and calling style. Can't run Miami's offense if you don't have the personnel, okay? Without the personnel part, when it's talking about playbook, calling style, and everything like that, you went with the hiring process with the idea that you were probably going to take Stroud at 1. So you build the offense around that. You then have to pivot and now build that offense around Bryce. I understand that's a little bit of a difference, but you, again, also have to realize what I made, or my previous point that I made. Frank was put in this situation to build the team long-term. If anybody thought that this was just a QB drop-in away, then maybe we shouldn't have, had a coach come in and then pick people that all wanted his job to work with him. I haven't even touched on the Chris Tabor and Campen thing, where he literally forced Frank to have a mole in the organization, who again also went behind his back. So I can't really give anything with that. He didn't adjust his playbook because everybody was trying to be in Bryce's ear because they were all trying to get Frank fired from the jump. That's what we know. We know that this was all a setup job. I don't know why people just keep pretending. Like, Frank built this roster overnight and all of a sudden installed all this new stuff, and everybody was pushing in the same direction as Frank, but Frank's, idea just wasn't right. No, we literally went up there and Thomas Brown would be like, man, just have really off body language and talk about how the offense isn't this and the offense isn't that. Then when his offense went out there, they still played like shit. Not everybody was pushing in the same direction. So I'd probably give a little bit more blame, again, to ownership and the people that actually created the roster, and not the coach that had just shown up. Reich didn't have the personnel for what he was trying to do, and instead of noticing that, yes, I agree with that. He continued to call zone runs, and that wasn't the strength of the O-line group. The strength of the O-line group was sitting on the bench and getting their asses beat. Our offensive line was dog shit last year, and the only reason why our defense was able to finish what was 5th overall was because people just ran the ball at the end of the game, and that was pretty much it. They just drained the clock out. You're up 30 points. Who cares? So I can't give you this. Again, yes, I agree that the offensive personnel was terrible. I also agree that what we traded Brian Burns for was terrible. I think that we take a step back on the defensive side this year. And yes, we do see the offense increase a little bit, but I think the defense still suffers. And yeah, you don't have guys that had separation and all that. I could have told you that. I could have told you that in preseason because I did. Right here on Roll Coverage. I came out and said, if you think DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, and a 33-year-old Adam Thielen is going to solve things, you're crazy. And everybody told me I didn't know what I was talking about. But again, I bring receipts always. So I was right again. I think there's a lot to come out of this comment. The first one I want to go to, though, is Frank Reich's offense was basic. There's a few things we've learned since Frank Reich's been gone, since Dave Canales has come back on, through player interviews, through insiders, through commentators, through all that other stuff. Not only was Frank Reich in Bryce Young's ear, Thomas Brown was in his ear. Chris Tabor was in his ear. Campen was in his ear. Eventually Josh McCown and Deuce Staley, who were trying to work with Reich. So there's a lot of people in there. And you also have to remember, reports are stating that David Tepper was meeting with Bryce Young on a regular basis. David Tepper and his wife, were both meeting with him. And not only that, his family is a mental health specialist, so obviously he knows how to deal with a lot of this. But what we heard was he wasn't able to process stuff, which what we were told coming out of college is he was the supercomputer of processors. So if his offense was basic and Bryce couldn't execute it, then what do you think bringing in a young offensive coordinator, one-time offensive coordinator, one-time play caller, who is going to bring in a more complex and motion-based offense, is somehow Bryce going to be able to process it easier? It wasn't about the processing, it was about the voices and people around him. If we really did it right last year, we hire Frank Reich and we let Frank Reich pick everybody on the staff. Not retaining DCs from previous regimes, not retaining special teams coordinators and offensive line coordinators, or coaches, So, yeah, we're on a different playing field here, my guy. Dave Canales was given the actual ability to be a head coach, and Frank Reich was kind of slotted in as a temp hire. Okay, Frank Reich was the substitute teacher. That's perfect. He kind of looks like one. That's what he was. He was a substitute teacher who's coming into somebody else's kind of hodgepodge of stuff, bringing a few of your ideas, and then 6 months later or 9 months later or whatever it was, you're out the door. And we're going to blame everything on you. Meanwhile, we really know it wasn't you. We know it was David Tepper. So that's really why I wanted you guys to understand this video, really understand my thoughts. I'm not anti-Dave. I'm not anti-Bryce. I'm not even anti-Dan Morgan, which I should be because he was a part of all of Scott Fitterer's decisions. I'm upset at the fan base because we're not painting the man who threw ice at people and decided to go to a local establishment and take a hat off somebody's head because he was upset at something. We're dealing with these issues because of David Allen Tepper, period. W question or W comment, I guess, Mr. Anthony Fowler. But if you really put it into context of everything, and again, if we ever put together a timeline video, which I would love to do one day, maybe I can get working with a few other people on that. And I just think you guys would really see it, that it truly was David Tepper from the jump. Next one, though. Pat Chevy Jr., 1862. Bryce is definitely the worst starting quarterback in the league, and their 9th or 10th best backup in the league. Guy said, have you even watched the game film on the team? The whole offensive side was terrible, and for you to say Bryce is the worst starting quarterback in the league is just hate, and you need to stop. For you to expect a rookie to elevate a team with no identity or direction is just foolish. Shake my head. You can't be a Panthers fan. Okay. How is somebody not a Panthers fan because they're being critical of what happened last year and what, again, Bryce put on tape? But before you even say that, for you to expect a rookie to elevate a team with no identity or direction is just foolish. I'm sorry. What did CJ Stroud do to the Texans? Did he not win a playoff game? But then we're going to be like, oh, because that was a different situation, and that was this, and that was that. But yet you're going to blame Frank Reich for the situation he was going through with David Tepper, where you only held one person accountable, and incorrectly, the wrong person. So that's on you, my guy. Maybe you should take a look in the mirror and understand where your fandom is at.
What's up, brother?
Next one. Chevy came back. Hey, Chevy, appreciate you. I agree with everything you are saying, except for the Dan Morgan take. Yes, he was in the front office, but as an assistant, he isn't pulling the trigger. He was basically a protege or a glorified apprentice to the GM, so he had little to no power in assembly of the roster. He may give an opinion here or there, but that's it. Like an assistant coach isn't calling plays or determining personnel, Dan is doing good, in my opinion, fixing this dumpster fire of a GM. Rule and owner left for him to fix, to be honest. Okay, you know what? W comment. I'm going to say W comment because you gave the proper...
Yeah, I got responsibilities now. Responsibilities?
Responsibility. The responsibility pie, you put it in the right place with the last GM, Scott Fitterer, Matt Rule, and the owner. I would give you that. Rule had the roster for 3+ years. Owner's been obviously the worst owner since he took over. And then Scott Fitterer was hot dog water. So... okay, I could give Dan a little bit of leeway, but to be honest, Dan Morgan's legacy predicates, in my opinion, on Jonathan Brooks, Jatavian Sanders, Xavier Leggett, and Trevin Wallace. Those first 4 picks that he made this year will determine my thoughts on him next year. If Xavier Leggett has 500 yards by the end of the year and like 5 or 6 touchdowns, pretty good rookie season, but if that's the case, you guys need to accept that last year Jonathan Mingo had a pretty decent rookie season. Even though he didn't really light it on fire, he did really well on this, again, last year, dog water team. So, the big one for me, though, is Trevin Wallace. He really kind of lauded this guy as more of a replacement, more of a project. A lot of the draft profiles that we did, and even ones that we showed here on Roll Coverage, were saying he's a very big boom or bust, which is why I called this year in the draft a big, huge gamble for us. We're really hoping that Jonathan Brooks can bounce back and look like he did at Texas. We're hoping Jatavian Sanders can look like Travis Kelce and also learn how to block, hopefully. We're hoping Xavier Leggett isn't just a one-year wonder out of college. We're hoping Trevin Wallace is actually able to become an NFL defensive player. Because one of the critiques of him was that he does not understand NFL speed and doesn't understand the NFL game. So it's a big gamble on our side. But yeah, I will give Dan a little bit of credit because, yes, he doesn't make the ultimate decision, but he's still in there and he still bears some, maybe 1% of the responsibility pie. Can we give him 1%? I'll take 1%. Okay, next one. From at DCL Fanatic? DCL Fanatic. I hope that's what it is. If not, my bad. Poor management to trade away your next year's first-round pick without trying to maximize wins on the year to mitigate that collateral. Andy Dalton should have been the starter until Bryce won the job in practice from him. Starting your rookie quarterback without a safety net pick, if you end up last in the league, is so irresponsible. Tepper was convinced Bryce would carry us to wins. Again, another W comment. I would agree that Tepper basically forced the hand. I mean, he was the first pick, so you really expect him to pretty much immediately start. But if we compare Andy Dalton's one game to Bryce's best game, I don't think you guys are going to like the results. But go look at the injuries on the Bryce Packers game and see who he was really playing against in that game. And then tell me if he really lit it up like you think he did, compared to what Andy Dalton did just on a kind of toss-away game. I mean, yeah, I think Andy Dalton would have won us more games last year, and I hate to say that because I can't stand Andy Dalton, but whatever. I would agree with this, though. I think we should have started Dalton. We'd probably win 7-8 games. That pick ends up like 15. We don't end up helping the Bears get Caleb Williams. He probably ends up going to the Commanders. And there's a whole other thing that goes with that. So that was the better of the options. But now Caleb Williams is going to come in. I think it's in week 6 or 8 or something like that. So one of those weeks, Caleb Williams is coming to town. And if Bryce loses that game, Bears fans are going to come for Panthers fans, and I will not defend them. Yeah, this says a lot. Thank you for the comment, by the way. We do kind of have a toxic fan base to be expected with such a recent terrible franchise. From @LukeWard1714. Appreciate that. I would agree that the fan base has become increasingly toxic as a whole, especially on the Twitter side. It's really, really, really bad. I'm still kind of wading my feet into the Instagram waters. But overall, I just don't see a way forwards if the Panthers fan base continues to juice up people that are just toxic and hateful to the fan base. There's obviously a certain person from 4MR that I'm talking about. I don't even want to deal with him anymore. He'll stay muted forever, regardless of if he changes his ways or not. But the fan base is going to continually tear itself apart until something happens. And I think the fan base is not prepared for the idea that Bryce is a bust. Again, I'm not willing to say that he's a bust yet. I think that with all the offensive opportunities, he has the opportunity again to improve. But if he ends up being a bust, a lot of that toxicity that happened for nothing. And regardless, if he ends up becoming a 9-time Super Bowl champion, it still shouldn't be something that's in the fan base as a whole. And we should really be trying to cultivate each other's voices and really trying to help each other out. This is my thoughts on the Panthers. Doesn't have to be your thoughts. Doesn't have to be your friends' thoughts. It's just mine. And again, that's why I created Roll Coverage, to be something where fans could one day come on and talk with me live and see exactly where the fan base is every day. So I just appreciate you guys being a part of Roll Coverage. So thank you. This one was a one that I just saw a little bit ago, and I had to add this in here. From @Detroit with 3 eyes. That's honestly ridiculous. LOL. Bryce was set up to fail from last year's roster. I would not agree with you anymore, even if it was possible. I think that the fan base has a lot of internal monologues or thoughts that need to kind of come from inside, because people really need to start evaluating it based on the product on the field, not based on hopes. One of the big things is J.C. Horn. People saw a recent thing where it was the top 32 cornerbacks and J.C. Horn wasn't in there. Yeah, he played like 6 games last year. I wouldn't put him on there either. He's played, 22 games over 3 seasons? Yeah, he's not really in the equation. If he plays a full 17 games this season, I could see him finish in top 32 for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Could I see him finish in top 15? Hey, man, if he's anything like he was coming out of college, it could be amazing. But to be mad that he's not on there, I just don't see it. Yeah. The fan base is in a weird place. Overall, though, I think Dave has to make this work. If Dave comes out there and wins 5 games, again, I think it's a loss. With all of this spending and all of this capital put towards the offense needs to be a top 10 to 15 offense for me to even think that this was a success, to be honest with you. And Bryce Young needs to eclipse probably 3,900, 4,000 yards for me to really be like, oh my God, you guys were 100% right and what I saw on tape was wrong. Because otherwise I'm going to stay with what I said. I'm going to stay with the idea that Bryce is going to continue to develop, but if he's a 5-year development, I don't think the Carolina Panthers are holding him out for that. I think by then he's shipped out, he's gone, and we've already put somebody else in that position because of David Tepper. Again, if you take anything from this video, I hope you just take the one thing. David Tepper is the problem. That's it. Nice and easy. We don't have to have any other discussions about it. That's literally it. If you give him the blame, I'm 100% on your side. You want to give Frank some of the blame, totally on your side. You want to give Scott Fitterer part of the blame, totally on your side. But David Tepper deserves the bulk, period. Now, one of the things I'm going to pull up here is the Panthers schedule. We're going to do a quick pick 'em. I'm going to tell you what my thoughts on kind of where I see the year kind of going. So we're going to move it over here to this. Boom. We are going to the schedule. This is directly from Panthers.com. I'm not even going to mess with the preseason, but obviously that's a tough time right there, okay? First one, week 1, Carolina Panthers at the Caesars Superdome, so it is away. If we lose to Dennis Allen, I'm going to be real mad. I'm going to be honest with you. Dennis Allen's probably going to get fired this year from the Saints unless something crazy happens. I think this is Derek Carr's to go away tour, or at least the start of that. I think Spencer Rattler ends up QB1 at some point, if not this year, next year. Olave, all that other stuff. I really like where they're at. We are basically my Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints fighting for 3rd or 4th place. So with that, this one's kind of goes either way. Let me actually see if I can pull up the... Okay. Hopefully this just cuts straight to it and you guys see this now. I was able to find the betting odds. I believe somebody on Twitter... Oh, thank you, whoever sold that or told me that on YouTube. How to Zoom. So the betting odds, Panthers plus 5.5. They expect us to lose by almost a touchdown. I'm not happy about that. If that's the case, I'm taking the Saints today. They're a 4.5 point dog, or I'm sorry, we're a 5.5 point dog. Next week we're a 5-point dog. We're a 4-point dog to the Raiders. If we lose to the Raiders, I'm gonna be real sad because I'm seeing right here. Harbaugh's first game is an easy one. I think his first game is the Raiders. Let me go look it up. Chargers schedule. Because I'm pretty sure his first 2 games, everyone's saying that the Chargers are going to start 2-0. Yep. 1-2, Steelers 3, then they're going to get an L. Okay. So, LL. So we're starting 0-2 already. I do think we get this. We get our first win before Frank Reich got his first win, so that does help the fan base quite a bit. So right now, week 3, get the dub against the Raiders. 1-2, going into the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to be a really interesting one. What are our odds right now? We are 6.5 point dogs as of right now. Again, the 26th of May. Yeah, I'm giving the Bengals. So we are 1-3 at this point. 1-4. I'm just going to be honest. We're just going to cut straight to the chase. The Bears are beating us unless Caleb Williams plays like shit. If Caleb Williams is able to get picked off a few times, Bryce Young might be able to do this and pull out a W. This might be Bryce Young's thing. Like, people are like, oh, he can't beat the number 1 pick. Okay, he beat Stroud last year, which I was very surprised about. This year he comes out and beats Caleb Williams. That'd be pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie. But to be honest with you, we're week 5. I'm probably 1-4. Falcons, I'm going to say we get this one. This one's at home. So this one keeps us 2-4. I think we're going to lose this one hard. I think the Commanders are going to be a lot better than a lot of people. Same thing with the Broncos. So this is going to be an L and an L. So we're 4, 5, 6. So we're 2-6. Take a look. 3 points, that's closer, that's closer. Broncos are closer. I think Bo Nix is going to be real good. It really just kind of depends on their weapons. This game will be our defense. If our defense can show up, we can win this. Yeah, we can win this. We're only a 2.5-point dog right now, so I'll take that. I'll take that. Now, when it comes to the Saints game, this is a dub by us. Okay? 3 wins now, at least. I think 3 at least. And the Giants should be another dub. That could be a 4 wins going into the bye. Coming out of that bye, though, I don't see a whole lot of W's. L by the Chiefs. L by the Bucs, in my opinion. I'm sorry. Baker Mayfield's still there. Mike Evans is still there. Chris Godwin is still there. Still got a great defense. Eagles are going to be an interesting one. I think they could really fall off depending on how Jalen Hurts and the whole tush-push thing goes. Cowboys, we lose. Cardinals, we're going to probably win that one. We'll probably split one of these. I could see us at about 6 wins. That's the height, 6 wins. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to give you my official rankings as of right now, where I think they are. Boom, there you go. So this is where I think we're at. We're probably in this range. Again, I think about 3 to 6 wins. I could see us going, obviously, considerably more if, God comes down and all of a sudden makes Bryce Young 5 inches taller and 35 pounds heavier. But is that enough? I don't know. Like I said, if 4 wins is enough for you as a fan, I don't think you're really giving yourself the fandom you deserve. I think we should really strive for that 6 to 8. I still think we end up 3rd in the division, though, and don't get a playoff spot. I still think we're one of the worst divisions in football, and I still think Bryce Young has another year before we really have the discussion. Again, Dan Orlovsky said it best.
Bryce Young needs to do what to make this leap and become a credible NFL quarterback?
Not get broken mentally. It's gotten so bad over the course of 2 months. He's not letting it go. He's kind of like, hey, are you going to get open or not? And that's an awful place to be. Kev, I don't even think 2024 is a big deal. I think 2020, they're that bad talent-wise. I think 2025 is the year that we can really sit here and say,
oh my gosh,
what are you, Bryce?
So with that, I'm going to leave you with the Dan Orlovsky quote. Have a great rest of the day. My name is Nick, right here at Roll Coverage. If you liked this video, make sure you like, subscribe, do all the bit. If you're that one guy on YouTube, you don't like me asking you to subscribe right when it starts, I'm sorry, man. Got the idea from Nightcap. Shout out Shannon Sharp. Shout out Chado Josinko. Other than that, have a great one, man. Peace.